Thank you very much. My name is John Sabo. I'm the Senior VP for GELF Energy. And we are a company that makes green hydrogen from waste. I'm going to show you a movie that we made for our pitch for the first 2.5 minutes. And then I'm going to walk through a couple more ideas and possibly some slides at the end of that. So without further ado, I'll let this gentleman start the movie.
Hey Brett, what's up? How the waves out there?
It's shitty, dude.
Well, they look pretty epic to me.
No, the waves are good, but the water's polluted.
Oh man, that's a real problem here.
Yeah, it is. People are getting sick out here. I'm gonna do something about it.
Tell me more.
I want to make hydrogen from ammonia out of sewage. There's like 30,000 tourists come to Kauai every day. If we could just use the tourist poop, we could power all Kauai cars.
From tourists? You're killing me. Did you say ammonia?
Yeah, so ammonia is a hydrogen carrier, so you can transport it wherever you want. It's just like gasoline.
Wow, that's amazing.
Remember Dr. Whitman? He came up with this microbial energy device. It makes natural gas out of sewage.
Aren't they already doing that, capturing natural gas from sewage?
Yeah, but this is like the next generation. Instead of waiting 30 days to get the natural gas, we get it out in 3 days.
Oh, wow.
Dr. Cannon's team makes ultra-pure water out of sewage.
What's the technology?
So it uses this microalgae that they found from a geyser in Yellowstone. That purifies the water like first stage, and then they put it through a reverse and forward osmosis system. Yeah, that actually polishes the water into an ultra-pure water, and you can use that.
Well, so how do you scale?
We're ready to go. We've already engaged with the engineers. They're getting all the permitting done. They're ready to start. All we need is money.
So where are you going to get that money?
From you, John, of course.
Oh, God, you're killing me.
So yeah, I set up a company called GELF Energy. And so GELF Energy will raise the money and we'll put on the pilot.
It sounds like a technology that's going to solve all kinds of problems, from carbon emissions to wastewater treatment and on transition to alternative fuels.
We think so. I think the investors are going to be super excited about it. And we're excited about it.
So great. I have a few more comments to make. I had some slides, but I'm going to forego showing those slides, I think. The first is that we have a business plan. I had a slide with a pro forma on it. We can talk about that if you have questions about that. No, it's not in this slide deck, so don't worry. The second is that we have a big team. We have 12 on our staff, including a CFO, CTO, a number of vice presidents, including myself, responsible for different activities. And we have an advisor named Steve Cliff, who has formerly been president of companies like Blistex, Clorox, lots of startup experience, key advisor for us. I'll stop there because I think I'm done.
Let's open it up to questions from our panel.
I'll start, jump right in. Hi, I'm Drew Murphy. Good to see you. So you talked about GELF Energy generally, and you mentioned, I think it was 3 different potential sort of what I would call use cases maybe, or use case areas. You mentioned producing hydrogen through producing ammonia, methane or natural gas, and then water purification. Pretty broad spread of things there, it seems to me, in terms of potential markets you might go after. Not clear if I understand, so maybe you can help me. Is that all from the same basic microbial technology, or are there different microbial technologies? And how should I think about how broad you're looking as opposed to how focused you are in a particular segment?
It's an excellent question, and I'm glad you picked that up in 2.5 minutes. It is a broad market, and it's a set of 3 technologies, including the microbial one. So there's microbial digestion, there's algal treatment of the water, and then there's hydrothermal liquefaction, which makes it a closed loop system. So at the end of the day, we get ammonia out of the HDL, we get clean water out of the algae, we get methane out of the microbial process. Methane turns into electricity. Electricity plus water equals ammonia. you have your ammonia fuel, which you can take to either a hydrogen form with a separate technology that we don't work on, but the ammonia is immediately relevant to the shipping industry, for example.
Can I ask, so I'm still not clear, I'll ask one follow-up and I'll let you guys go. So what's the unique piece of that you guys have engineered, discovered, or pieces? Because a lot of the processes you just described are being done by other people. There's parts of that must already be commercialized in various technologies that you are using. So what's unique? What's your thing?
Super good question. The IP is in the microbial digestion. We do methane production 10 times as fast with 1/10 of the footprint, which is relevant in wastewater treatment situations because there's no real estate there. It allows you to set up in food processing facilities because there's no real estate there. It, I think, provides a scalable solution for different types of companies that not only need to get rid of waste, but also would like to have a sustainable fleet.
Thank you for the presentation. Eric Lee with Line Climate Capital. Just a quick question on your offtake. Simply put, you guys are producing green hydrogen from waste, but who's purchasing this green hydrogen and what are they using it for?
Well, I saw recently that Toyota announced a new hydrogen vehicle. We're hoping that in Hawaii, as a pilot case market, that the fleet of rental cars will shift to hydrogen, and they'll be our first immediate market. And we have lots of inroads in Hawaii because the CEO lives there. I think the second most immediate market is in the shipping industry. The shipping industry is responsible for 10 to 15% of global carbon emissions. There's a retrofit kit being developed for ships to convert to ammonia fuel. If we could be ahead of that shift, we would have a product that we could make in cities where there are ports and wastewater treatment facilities, food processing facilities, and provide the fuel for those ships. So I think the technology could end up either as ammonia or as hydrogen, and then independent of that, there's a revenue stream from waste disposal services.
Just a quick follow-up. How cost competitive is it towards the existing fuels currently being serviced to transportation and maritime?
I don't have an answer for that question, and I should know it. But I think, yeah, I can't answer that question. Sorry.
No worries.
I have a question. No, you go ahead.
How about just talking on the front end with the waste in terms of, what are you collecting? What are you processing? You talk about a microbial digestion. You mentioned human waste in there. I mean, is this like an anaerobic digestion process that's just using a different feedstock on the front end? Like, can you just go into a little bit more detail where you're starting? It
is AD, but it's a different technology that's patented that decreases the processing time by 1/10 and decreases the footprint by 1/10. So and the input, the feedstocks are.
And is that because of the algae itself?
It's
or
because
the microbes.
It's because of the microbes and also the modules and the module design that allows for more surface area to be exposed to the waste. Yeah, the feedstocks are diverse, and that's one of the things that we want to explore in pilot funding is how to ingest not only traditional waste from sewage from wastewater treatment plants, but all different kinds of food waste, because we think the food is really going to push this to produce enough fuel to be relevant.
My question is kind of two-part and been partly answered, but in the video there was something about speaking to the engineers about scaling. So the ingestion process and how you will collect all of the sewage, the downstream processing. How does that scale when you're talking about the markets you want to serve?
To be really direct, in the pilot market, it doesn't matter because everything, including waste, is trucked around the island. So it would just get trucked to us. And that's a separate problem that needs to be addressed. I think in the context of something like a wastewater treatment facility in Orange County, we would take the solid waste from that. And that's an issue nationwide, not just with getting rid of it and disposing it sustainably, but the two solutions currently, one is to put it on farms, and that's going to go away pretty soon because of emergent contaminants. Another is to incinerate it, which has carbon emissions considerations. So I think we would we would receive that waste the same way they're getting rid of it now, and charge them for it. Same goes for food.
Just I'll follow up maybe on the back end. Then you talked about sort of potentially when it's deployed out in various processes, including producing ammonia or fuels for ships, that kind of thing. Are you anticipating that the company itself will get into the actual production and distribution of the end product fuels or end product water, that kind of thing, as well as the front end technology development? So front the whole thing.
That's the main revenue stream, is fuel sales,
as opposed to just licensing the technology or
Yes.
selling the microbes. Okay.
Yeah, fuel sales and disposal removal services.
Have you considered how that looks when you have to compete with against fairly large companies that are fairly embedded into the fuel spaces that you're looking at? How do you think about that competitively?
I think we think that A, we're far enough ahead of the curve, and B, tackling it with a different solution that may solve multiple problems for our clients, and that will give us some competitive advantage.
Back on the microbial digestion side, around my earlier thread, when you look at the reduction in time for processing that you talked to, does that lead to a better cost position? Because I mean, one of the big things is that a lot of it's very heavily subsidized, and so I mean, how do the economics look on that ultimately?
Well, I think on the back end and on the front end, like I think if we're going to create enough fuel for a fleet, we need to have that time as short as possible, and have the footprint be as small as possible so that we can make more systems to handle more waste and create more hydrogen. So I think that does give some competitive advantage. I have some really rough numbers in the back of my head, but I don't want to really put them out here. But something like million gallons per day of wastewater would power. It would provide enough hydrogen for about 10,000 vehicles per month.
So are you starting with the wastewater actually, or is someone separating it out?
Now, we need the water too, because the algae treats the water, and water and electricity are the two ingredients to make ammonia.
So how are you, I mean, are you plugging into your municipal water infrastructure? I mean, how are you getting the wastewater at the end? I mean, that's a big problem even in itself.
Would likely need to be co-located at a wastewater treatment plant, but not get into the business of treating the wastewater for redistribution. We would be more in the business
So
of
you'd be ahead of that?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
All right, we've reached the end of our time. Thank you for the presentation.